The internet is often compared to an iceberg. Most people only ever see the small part that floats above the water. This is called the surface web. It includes every website that is indexed by standard search engines like Google or Bing. Think of news sites, social media platforms, company websites, and online stores. These are the public-facing parts of the digital world, easily accessible to anyone with a standard web browser. Their addresses are familiar, ending in extensions like .com, .org, or .net. They are designed to be found and accessed by the general public, forming the backbone of our daily online interactions and information gathering. Beneath the surface lies a much larger and more hidden layer known as the deep web. This part of the internet is not indexed by search engines. It's not necessarily sinister, in fact we all use it every day without realizing it. The deep web contains content that requires a login or password to access. Examples include your private email inbox, your online banking portal, corporate intranets, and subscription-based academic journals. The content is kept behind these access controls for privacy and security reasons. It's not meant for public consumption, so search engines are deliberately blocked from crawling and indexing these pages, ensuring that personal and sensitive data remains confidential. The smallest and most misunderstood part of this iceberg is the dark web. It's a small fraction of the deep web, but it is intentionally and deeply hidden. To access the dark web, you need specialized software such as the Tor browser. This software routes your internet traffic through a series of encrypted relays, making your identity and location almost impossible to trace. Websites on the dark web use special domain names such as .onion. They're not indexed by any search engine, and you can't stumble upon them by accident. This extreme anonymity is what makes the dark web a haven for both criminal activity and those seeking true privacy from surveillance. The key difference between these three layers is accessibility and purpose. The surface web is for public information. The deep web is for private, protected information. The dark web is for anonymous communication and activity, which can be used for both good and ill. While the deep web is vast and mostly benign, containing trillions of pages of secure data, the dark web is a purpose-built network designed for untraceable interactions. This architecture is what draws criminals who want to operate outside the law, but it also attracts activists, journalists, and whistleblowers who need to protect their identities from oppressive regimes or powerful organizations. The foundation of the dark web's anonymity is a technology called Tor, which stands for the Onion Router. Tor was originally developed by the United States Naval Research Laboratory to protect government communications online. It works by wrapping your internet traffic in multiple layers of encryption, much like the layers of an onion. When you use the Tor browser to visit a website, your request is bounced through a worldwide network of volunteer-operated servers, known as relays or nodes. Each relay only knows the identity of the previous and next relay in the chain. It decrypts one layer of encryption to find out where to send the data next, but it can't see the full path from the origin to the destination. This process, called onion routing, makes it incredibly difficult for anyone to trace your online activity back to you. The final relay in the chain, the exit node, sends your request to the destination website. The website sees the request as coming from the exit node, not your personal IP address. This effectively masks your true location and identity. Websites hosted on the dark web known as onion services take this a step further. They are configured to only accept connections from the Tor network, meaning both the user and the website operator are anonymous. These sites have addresses that end in .onion, which are not registered with any central authority, and can only be accessed through the Tor browser. To complete the ecosystem of anonymity, transactions on the dark web rely heavily on cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin was the original, and is still a popular choice. But other privacy-focused coins like Monero are gaining traction. Cryptocurrencies are decentralized digital currencies that are not controlled by any bank or government. Transactions are recorded on a public ledger called a blockchain, but the identities of the parties involved are hidden behind pseudonymous wallet addresses. While Bitcoin transactions can be traced with sophisticated analysis, they offer a much higher degree of privacy than traditional banking systems, which require personal identification and leave a clear paper trail for law enforcement to follow. This combination of Tor for anonymous access and cryptocurrencies for untraceable payments creates a powerful framework for illicit commerce. A user can browse a marketplace on a .onion site without revealing their IP address. They can then purchase illegal goods or services using a cryptocurrency wallet that is not tied to their real name. The seller receives the payment without knowing the buyer's identity. This technological shield is what enables the dark web's notorious marketplaces to thrive. It separates the action from the identity, making it a significant challenge for authorities to connect the digital crime to a physical person. Dark web marketplaces operate with a surprising level of sophistication, often mirroring the user experience of legitimate e-commerce websites like Amazon or eBay. When a user navigates to one of these .onion sites, they typically find a familiar layout. Products are organized into clear categories such as drugs, malware, or counterfeit documents. Each listing includes a detailed description, photos of the product, pricing information, and available shipping options. This professional presentation is designed to build trust and make it easy for customers to find and purchase what they are looking for, creating a functional and competitive market environment. Trust is a critical component of these anonymous transactions. Since buyers and sellers do not know each other and can't rely on legal recourse if a deal goes wrong, these marketplaces have developed robust reputation systems. After a transaction is completed, both the buyer and the seller can leave a review and a rating for one another. A seller with a long history of positive reviews is seen as more reliable and can often charge higher prices. This system incentivizes good behavior and helps weed out scammers. Many marketplaces also offer an escrow service where the buyer's payment is held by the marketplace until the goods are received and confirmed, adding another layer of security to the transaction. The process of making a purchase is straightforward but requires careful steps to maintain anonymity. A buyer first transfers cryptocurrency like Bitcoin or Monero into their marketplace wallet. They then place an order and provide their shipping information, which is almost always encrypted using the seller's PGP or pretty good privacy key. This ensures that only the seller can decrypt the address. The seller then packages the goods, often using stealth methods to avoid detection by customs or postal services, and ships them to the buyer. Once the buyer receives the package, they finalize the transaction on the marketplace, which releases the escrowed funds to the seller. This entire system creates a self-regulating underground economy. Competition among vendors drives quality and service improvements. Marketplace administrators enforce rules, settle disputes, and take a commission on every sale. However, this ecosystem is also highly volatile. Law enforcement agencies are constantly working to infiltrate and shut down these sites. When a major marketplace is seized, it sends shock waves through the community, causing vendors and buyers to scatter and seek new platforms. This constant threat of disruption means that trust is fragile, and the landscape of dark web commerce is always in a state of flux. The most notorious category of products sold on dark web marketplaces is, without a doubt, illegal drugs. Vendors offer everything from cannabis and prescription medications to hard drugs like heroin, cocaine, and fentanyl. These substances are often sold in various quantities, from small personal use amounts to bulk wholesale orders. The listings provide detailed information about the product's purity, origin, and effects, much like a legal retailer would describe their merchandise. This digital drug trade has transformed the illicit drug market, allowing buyers to access substances with a perceived lower risk than street-level purchases, though the dangers of addiction and overdose remain just as high. Beyond drugs, the dark web is a major hub for weapons trafficking. The offerings can range from handguns and assault rifles to explosives and ammunition. These sales pose a significant threat to public safety, as they allow prohibited individuals, including convicted felons and terrorists, to acquire deadly weapons without background checks or any legal oversight. While shipping firearms across international borders is difficult and risky, domestic sales within countries are common. The anonymity of the dark web provides a layer of protection for both the buyer and the seller, making it an attractive channel for arming criminals and extremists around the globe. Cybercrime tools and services are another major market category. This includes the sale of malware such as ransomware, keyloggers, and computer viruses, which can be used to steal data or extort money from victims. Hacking services are also for sale, where individuals can hire hackers to break into social media accounts, corporate networks, or government systems. Furthermore, stolen data from massive breaches is frequently sold in bulk. This includes credit card numbers, login credentials for bank accounts, and sensitive personal information that can be used for identity theft and fraud. These digital goods are easy to deliver and hard to trace, making them a lucrative business for cybercriminals. The darkest corners of this illicit economy are dedicated to human exploitation. This includes the sale of counterfeit documents like passports and driver's licenses, which can facilitate human trafficking and illegal immigration. Even more disturbing is the existence of forums and image boards dedicated to sharing child exploitation material, a heinous crime that law enforcement worldwide works tirelessly to combat. Financial fraud is also rampant, with services offering everything from stolen credit card details and cloned cards, to money laundering services that help criminals clean their illicit profits. These activities represent the most severe and damaging aspects of the dark web's criminal ecosystem. Law enforcement agencies face immense challenges when trying to police the dark web. The very technologies that provide anonymity to users like Tor and strong encryption are, honestly, formidable barriers for investigators. Tracing an IP address through the Tor network is nearly impossible by design, so police just can't easily identify the real-world location of a suspect. And even if they manage to seize a computer or a server, the data is usually protected by really powerful encryption. Without the decryption key or a password, the evidence just stays locked away and unusable in court, which creates a significant technical hurdle for building a case against suspects. Another major challenge is the global and borderless nature of the dark web. For example, you might have a marketplace administrator in Russia, servers hosted in the Netherlands, and goods being sold to a customer in the United States. This jurisdictional complexity makes investigations incredibly difficult. Law enforcement in one country might not have the legal authority to conduct operations or seize evidence in another. International cooperation is essential, but it can be slow and complicated, often hindered by different laws, languages, and priorities. Criminals know this and exploit these jurisdictional seams, deliberately structuring their operations to make them as tough as possible for any single agency to investigate. But, despite all these obstacles, law enforcement has actually achieved some pretty high-profile successes. One of the most famous examples is the takedown of the Silk Road Marketplace in 2013. The FBI managed to identify and arrest its founder, Ross Ulbricht, by painstakingly connecting digital breadcrumbs he had left on the surface web years earlier. Another major operation was the 2017 takedown of Alphabay and Hansa, two of the largest dark web markets at the time. In a coordinated international effort, authorities seized Alphabay and secretly took control of Hansa, monitoring its users for weeks to gather intelligence before shutting it down, a move that really dealt a major blow to the dark web economy. These takedowns showed that while the dark web provides a strong shield, it's not totally impenetrable. Law enforcement agencies are constantly developing new investigative techniques, from advanced blockchain analysis to undercover operations where agents pose as buyers or sellers. They also rely on traditional police work, like tracking packages or exploiting human errors made by criminals. The fight against crime on the dark web is a continuous cat-and-mouse game. As criminals develop new methods to stay hidden, law enforcement adapts and innovates to unmask them, proving that no one is truly untouchable, even in the deepest corners of the internet. While the dark web is, pretty infamous for its criminal underbelly, it's crucial to recognize that the anonymity it provides is actually a powerful tool for positive and legitimate purposes. For journalists and whistleblowers, the dark web offers a secure channel to communicate sensitive information without fear of retribution. Individuals like Edward Snowden have used secure technologies to expose government secrets, and investigative journalists rely on anonymous Dropboxes, often hosted as onion services, to receive tips from sources who would otherwise be too afraid to come forward. This protects the source's identity and allows important stories to be told. In countries with oppressive regimes and heavy internet censorship, the dark web is a lifeline for activists and political dissidents. Citizens living under authoritarian rule can use the Tor browser to access blocked websites, like international news outlets, social media platforms, and human rights resources. It allows them to organize protests, share information freely, and communicate with the outside world without being monitored by their government. For these individuals, the anonymity of the dark web isn't about committing crimes, it's about exercising fundamental human rights, like freedom of speech and assembly. Privacy-conscious individuals also turn to the dark web for everyday activities. In an era of widespread corporate and government surveillance, some people just don't want their online behavior tracked, analyzed, or monetized. They might use the Tor browser for general web surfing to prevent internet service providers and advertisers from building a profile on them. Major organizations including the New York Times and Facebook actually operate their own .onion versions of their websites. This allows users to access their services with enhanced privacy and security, especially from regions where those sites might be censored or monitored. Ultimately, the technology behind the dark web, like Tor, is neutral. It's just a tool designed to provide privacy and anonymity. This tool can be wielded for both malicious and beneficial ends. The same anonymity that protects a drug trafficker also protects a human rights activist. Banning or dismantling these technologies would not only be technically difficult, but would also silence vulnerable voices and eliminate a vital tool for freedom in many parts of the world. Understanding this dual nature is key to having a nuanced conversation about the dark web, recognizing its dangers while also appreciating its value as a sanctuary for privacy and free expression. The idea that the dark web is some kind of lawless frontier where anything goes without consequence is, honestly, a dangerous myth. In reality, it's actually one of the most heavily monitored places on the internet, even if the surveillance is often invisible. Law enforcement and intelligence agencies from around the world dedicate significant resources to infiltrating and observing criminal activities on these hidden networks. They deploy sophisticated techniques to de-anonymize users, track cryptocurrency transactions, and map out the connections within criminal organizations. This constant, unseen pressure means that anyone operating on the dark web is under a persistent threat of being identified and apprehended. Agencies like the FBI, DEA, and Europol have become pretty adept at conducting long-term undercover operations. Agents create fake personas and act as buyers, sellers, or even marketplace administrators to gain the trust of criminal communities. Over months or even years, they gather evidence, identify key players, and understand the inner workings of a criminal enterprise. This patient intelligence gathering is crucial for building strong cases that can lead to successful prosecutions. These operations often culminate in coordinated international takedowns, where dozens of suspects are arrested simultaneously across multiple countries, dismantling entire networks in a single blow. The takedown of the Wall Street market in 2019 is a prime example of this unseen war. After its administrators tried to exit scam and steal users' funds, German and Dutch police, who had already infiltrated the site's infrastructure, seized control. They not only arrested the primary suspects but also gathered a trove of data on the market's vendors and customers. This intelligence was then shared with law enforcement agencies globally, leading to a wave of arrests in the United States and Europe. Such operations send a clear message to dark web criminals: their anonymity is not guaranteed, and their actions have real-world consequences. This ongoing battle has created an atmosphere of paranoia within dark web communities. Users are constantly wary of scams, undercover agents, and security vulnerabilities that could expose their identity. Every major marketplace takedown fuels this distrust, causing criminals to become more cautious and fragmented. While the dark web provides tools for anonymity, a single mistake, reusing a password, clicking on a malicious link, or revealing a personal detail in a conversation, can be enough for investigators to unravel a suspect's entire digital shield. The unseen war of surveillance and infiltration ensures that the dark web is far from a safe haven for crime. The dark web represents, honestly, one of the most profound paradoxes of our digital age. It's a space born from a desire for privacy and freedom from oversight, yet it's now inextricably linked with some of the most dangerous forms of criminal enterprise. Its architecture, built on anonymity-granting tools like Tor and privacy-protecting cryptocurrencies, provides a powerful shield for those who need it most. This includes journalists exposing corruption, activists fighting tyranny, and ordinary citizens seeking refuge from pervasive surveillance. For them, the dark web is a sanctuary, a vital tool for exercising fundamental human rights in an increasingly monitored world. At the same time, this very same shield is exploited by criminals to facilitate a global illicit economy. The dark web hosts sprawling marketplaces where drugs, weapons, stolen data, and other illegal goods and services are traded with alarming ease. Organized crime syndicates use it to manage their operations, launder money, and expand their reach across borders, posing a significant threat to global security. This criminal activity rightfully draws the intense focus of law enforcement agencies who are locked in a perpetual and technologically advanced battle to unmask and prosecute those who operate in the shadows. The constant tension between these two opposing uses really defines the modern dark web. It's not a monolithic entity, but a complex ecosystem with many different inhabitants and motivations. The ongoing efforts of law enforcement have made it clear that the dark web is not a lawless space. Major takedowns of marketplaces like Silk Road and Alpha Bay have demonstrated that anonymity can be broken and that criminals can be brought to justice. The threat of surveillance is constant, creating an environment of paranoia that hangs over every transaction and communication, proving that no digital fortress is entirely impenetrable. Ultimately, the dark web is a double-edged sword. It simultaneously enables some of the worst aspects of human behavior, while also providing a crucial lifeline for some of the best. It highlights the fundamental conflict between the right to privacy and the need for security. As technology continues to evolve, this conflict will only intensify. The dark web will remain a battleground where criminals seek profit, law enforcement seeks justice, and the vulnerable seek protection. Its existence forces us to confront some really tough questions about the nature of freedom, privacy, and control in the 21st century.